Yes. What's going on, everybody? It is Wednesday night. It is a little bit after 10 o'clock Central Time when I normally start. Just finished up dinner over here. It's time for Ask Weezy. I want you guys out there watching to put some questions in the chat for me so that I can put these stats up that I have on the screen. I can find some benchmarks for you. We could talk about the prop template. We could talk about any prize picks or underdog props that you're looking at. We could talk about just who you're leaning to win fights. You're looking for some stats to back up some of the reasoning that you have for your bets. That's what I'm here to answer for you guys today so that we can all stack cash tickets like flapjacks together, find ways to beat these bookies with a bag of oranges until we juice them. So let me know what you got for me today. Let me tell you what I have for you today, and that's going to be my picks so far, my bets, I should say. So I've got two money line bets. I've got one underdog, and I'm going to be adding more. There's a lot of underdogs that I like this week, and I'm just kind of waiting to see because usually what happens is that whoever the favorite is just tends to get a little more juiced as the week goes on. So here's what I have for you guys in tracked bets this week. I've got 1 unit on Charlie Radke at plus 180. Got that on Caesars William Hill for 1 unit. I've got 3.5 units on the Thomas Peterson money line over Jamal Pogues, minus 170 for 3.5 units there. So trying to win 2 units. I've got the fight doesn't go to decision for the Mirov versus Kisra fight. That's a 1.3 unit bet at minus 130. I've got the Peterson Pogues fight doesn't go to decision at minus 115, a 1.15 unit bet to win 1. I've got Pete Rodriguez to win in the first round by KO at plus 600 for a quarter unit. I've got Julia Stoliarenko to win in submission, by submission in round 1 for a half unit at plus 480. I've got the Roman Dolidze scorecards equals no action or the finish only prop, 1 unit for plus 114. And then today I got a quarter unit on Natalia Silva to win in round 3 at plus 1,400. I think she's going to get better as the fight goes on. So those are the bets. Those are the sprinkles so far. And on my Tapology profile, you can see all the picks. I am Vic Vinegar on Tapology. And we've got Roman Dolidze, submission round 2. Renato Moicano, submission round 2. I got Randy Rude Boy Brown winning by decision. I've got Natalia Silva by 3rd round KO. I've got Alias Cobb Kisraev by 2nd round submission. I've got Charlie Chuck Buffalo Radke, Valley Flow striking, stand up, 2nd round knockout. I've got Molly McCann to win by decision. I've got Azat Maxim to win by decision. I got Dead Game Pete Rodriguez to win by 1st round knockout. I got Blake Builder to win by 3rd round submission. I've got Julia Stoliarenko to win by 1st round submission. I've got Landon Quinones by decision. And I've got Thomas the Train Peterson is your Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week knockout round 1. Uncle Weezy's Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week is the Roman Dolidze money line at plus 141 on Bet Online Sportsbook. What is going on with you guys in the chat today? We got my guy Teretea Paku in there going, sure, what is up, man? Good to see you hanging out in here as always. We've got Steve Balboni in the room saying, what do I think of the Mirov fight? I'm back in the Russian, but see lots of people on Mirov. So I'm actually picking the Russian as well, Kisraev, but it's just hard to know what has this guy been doing? April of 2018. Since then, he's fought twice. So this is almost 6 years' time, and he's fought twice. It's very troubling because you have to be active in this business. I mean, even just to make a living doing it, you can't feed a family, showing up once every 3 years to fight. So it's going to be an interesting one, right? Kisraev is good everywhere. When you watch the tape on Ali Kisraev, the striking checks out. He pressures on the feet. He throws in combination. He has some power. He's got some good kicks too. Fantastic step in knees for Kisraev. His wrestling is there. And when he does get fights down to the ground, he does damage. He gets to dominant positions. He lands a ton of ground and pound, and he's got every single finish of his by submission in his career is a rear naked choke. So I love it. He's got a functional wrestling game to get fights down to the ground. Then once the fights are on the ground, he can finish you via ground and pound. He can finish you via submission, and he will keep you there as long as you are not actively going to try to get back to your feet. And when you do go actively to try to get back to your feet with Kisra on top of you, you risk giving up your back. If you do that to him, you're probably getting choked out. So this is a situation where we've seen Mahmoud Mirov lose by submission 4 times in his professional career. So let me just put these stats up on the screen for you guys while I'm talking about this fight. These are the advanced matchup stats that are available on my Patreon for $10 a month. You could see that now we only have one fight for Kisraev, but what we do know about Mahmoud Mirov, if you look right here, he's got 8 professional losses. 4 of them come by submission, 1 of them by knockout. So this is a guy that if you can get him down to the ground, you can absolutely submit him. You can absolutely get to positions, dominant positions where you can ground and pound him or submit him, and the ground and pound opens up the submission opportunities. So I'm picking Kisraev, but you got to keep in mind that the guy hasn't fought since 2021, I think. I mean, I had a max bet on him the last time that he fought. Fight card. Let's do that. When was it, right? Where the hell has he been? Yeah, I mean, like March of 2022. So he doesn't fight for the rest of 2022. He takes all of 2023 off. I mean, there wasn't even a fight scheduled for a year and a half. He fought on March 26, 2022, and then the next fight isn't even scheduled for a year and a half. So I don't know what the hell this guy is doing. He's 33 years old now. All this tape that we saw of him prior to being in the UFC, the Palhares fight, the Enomoto fight, the Kopchik fight, Truhan. These are fights that happened in 2017 and 2018. This was a long time ago. He was 28 back then. Now he's 33. So, yeah, from what I've seen on tape from Kisraev, he's exactly the kind of fighter that could give somebody like Muradov problems. And he's a good striker in his own right. And the conditioning always checked out for Kisraev. Always kept a high pace. He always wrestled, and not always successfully, but he would go to it over and over again. And he had the pace to push that for a full 3 rounds. So everything checks out. It's just that there's been so little activity from him, Steve, that I don't know what to say at this point in terms of, do I feel confident about him? Well, yeah. I mean, if the Kisraev that's shown up in all these other fights shows up to face Muradov, then yeah, I think he's gonna win this fight. But it's a big if, and it's a lot to ask of somebody that just doesn't fight that much these days. Steve Balboni saying, "You think I got stuck on the bong?" Yeah, I mean, sometimes that does happen, but in this case, I got stuck on some food. Definitely was eating here. I had to get something in the stomach so that I could be here for you guys' questions. And then the bong, we'll see about that after the show. All right, we got RJ's MMA in the room saying Uncle Weezy, and he's saying, "Let's go, Paku." Let me know if you got any questions, RJ's, about any of the fights or fighters or the stats that you're looking at here. We got Jester is in the room saying, "What's up, Unc? Good to see you hanging out in here, Jester. Always appreciate you hanging out." We got Teratea saying, "WRJ's, yeah, let's go, Uncle Weezy, let's go, man." We got Ruthless Soda Pop in the room saying, "Was there a reason Kisraev was out for so long? I find it very worrying, and I think Muradov is a great dog this week." Yeah, so a year and a half between the Teolulin fight, which was less than a 7-minute fight, and then the next scheduled fight against Jacob Malkoun, which he then withdrew from. And then after withdrawing from that fight, no fight scheduled then for the next 4 months after that. Until he gets this Muradov fight. So, yeah, I mean, the last time that he fought was March of 2022. It's going to be February of 2023 or 2024 when he fights. So it's been almost 2 years. And then before that, it was a year and a half that he took off because of coronavirus problems, because he pulled out of fights, and because other guys pulled out of fights. So I believe it was Turman withdrew against Kisra, and he wouldn't accept a replacement, I guess. Or maybe they just couldn't find one. I don't think a lot of people want to fight this guy. Then it was Kisra that withdrew in August of 2021. And then it was Magomedov who withdrew in March of 2022. And then Tia Lulin stepped in to take that fight on short notice. So, yeah, man, I don't know what the reason is. He could be just lazy. He could be riddled with injuries. There's a lot of possibilities because he used to fight his whole career at 170. Doesn't really make sense that he would fight at 185. So I think maybe he can't cut weight due to whatever injury it is that's kept him out for this long. We got Lone Wolf DFS is in the room, and he is saying best underdogs and why. So there's several underdogs that I've picked this week. We go to the home page here. You can see that I've got Roman Dolidze is an underdog winning. I've got Charlie Radke as an underdog winning. I have Pete Rodriguez by first round knockout. So he's an underdog. I have him winning the fight. I've got Blake Builder winning by third round submission. That's 4 underdogs I have winning. And then I've got Landon Quinones winning the fight as well. So I'm picking 5 underdogs, Lone Wolf. And I like Dolidze for these reasons. I think Dolidze has more power on the feet, and I think he's the far more dangerous submission grappler. So in a 25-minute fight, if somebody is more dangerous wherever the fight goes, and in addition to that, they're as durable as Roman Dolidze is, I got to believe that he's going to find a moment at some point in the fight, a leg lock, just a grappling transition where he gets to the back, or where he finds one of his creative leg lock setups. He can land big shots on the feet. I love when he blasts those body kicks. There's a lot of things that he does really well. Nasruddin Imavov does need to kind of the finishes that he's gotten have kind of been on the ground. I mean, the Heinisch one was standing. The Shabazian one was definitely on the ground. So I don't think he wants to go to the ground with Roman Dolidze, period. And I think Dolidze is going to be pressuring and forcing the action of this fight. And I think if Dolidze can even get a takedown or two, he could find himself in situations where he could get a finish here. So I like Dolidze because I just think he's more dangerous wherever the fight goes. And because he's durable, I think that dangerous fighter that he is going to find a moment to finish that fight. The Radke, I'm not a big believer in Gilbert Urbina. I don't know of any wins in his career that should lead me to believe that he beats a fighter of Chuck's quality. Chuck has power on the feet. Chuck's got a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and has a very good submission game. And Chuck, even though it was an ugly performance against Blood Diamond, consider the circumstances under which that fight takes place. He has a horrible weight cut and has to fly 24 hours to take that fight in Australia in front of a hostile crowd rooting for Blood Diamond. He does something that we haven't seen him do a whole lot on his tape, which is just win a ton of minutes in the clinch. He was trying to get takedowns. Blood Diamond's takedown defense was solid, but Charlie never really let Blood Diamond get his game going. So I think it was an underrated performance. And if I'm going to bet an underdog, I want to know that they're going to make the right decisions and make the decisions that are going to help them get the dub, not the love of the crowd. Yeah, I want the dub when I'm betting on somebody. So Radke did what was necessary last time out. I think he's more dangerous wherever this fight goes. So I like Radke. Pete Rodriguez, I'm just not a believer in Temba Garimbo yet. But I do see what the path to victory here is for Temba, and that's to wrestle early and often and get Pete down and test the ground game, which is not, we don't really know much about Pete Rodriguez. Pete Rodriguez's pro career has only lasted 9 minutes. So, what does Pete Rodriguez look like in the second round? We have no evidence to suggest that what that looks like. What does Pete Rodriguez's look like when he's on the bottom, on the ground? Does he have a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game where he can threaten with guard submission attempts? Does he have a good get-up game? Or does he just kind of lay there and wait for the next opportunity from a stand-up? So I think that Pete, to win by first-round knockout, is a great look because it's the way that he wins fights. And then that way you can win over a unit by betting like a quarter unit on that first round knockout prop, knowing that it's 100% of his pro win condition thus far. Is he getting better while training at the MMA lab? That's a definite possibility, rounding out his game potentially. But from what we've seen of him on tape, I mean, I don't want him doing anything but trying to keep this fight standing in boxing because he's got serious power. He's got nice hands. He throws in combination. He has power. So I mean, he's definitely game. The way that he fought against Jack Della, I mean, he was looking to win that fight. He was landing big shots. Jack Della's a tough dude. So, and we're not going to compare the striking of Temba Garimbo and put it in the same boat as Jack Della Maddalena. We're just not. So that's not happening. Temba's not going to town on Pete Rodriguez on the feet unless Pete completely gasses out. So it's Temba can wrestle, but I'm betting on him to win by first round KO, Pete Dead Game Rodriguez, and I've got a small bet on that, trying to win over a unit, taking him to win by his best win condition. I like Blake Builder. I'm not sold on Jun Yong Lee at all. I bet against him. I had a ticket on Yijia. Yijia clearly won that fight. I just didn't get paid for the bet because the judges sucked that day. But this guy Jun Yong Lee, he's got a lot to prove. There's not a lot of tape on him either. He's kind of like a first round knockout or bust type of guy. And if he doesn't get that, if he doesn't, his submission game basically is going for arm bars. So I think Blake Builder, who's a guy who's very durable, who's got a ton of heart, excellent conditioning, and great pace as the fight goes on, and somebody that is able to kind of mix in that wrestling. He's not the best wrestler, but when fights get to the ground, I think Blake Builder's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is going to be a lot more dangerous than Jun Yong Lee's. So I've got Blake Builder winning this fight by third round submission. I'm going to be looking for a fat Blake Builder round 3 prop. And I'll also be looking at a Jun Yong Lee first round knockout prop at something hopefully better than plus 600 to sprinkle a little bit, because I think that's Jun Yong Lee's best win condition. He's very dangerous early in fights, and we've seen Blake Builder get clipped early in fights. So I like Jun Yong Lee early, and I like Blake Builder potentially by submission at a fat number if we can get it there. And I'd like Blake Builder round 3. If I can get a nice fat number, I'll be sprinkling that as well. So I like that one. And then the last one that we were talking about for the underdogs, definitely not Pogues for me. Yeah, and I like Landon. Landon's a little more experienced. He's fought the little bit better brand of competition. He's already had his UFC debut. This is going to be Medeiros' UFC debut. And I like the durability of Quinones. He puts on a pace, and that pace is a weapon because he can take what his opponents dish out. Very durable, great recoverability when he gets hit with big shots, and he can wrestle as well. So I think this is going to be a great fight. I think it's a very close fight, but I do think Landon can pull that one out. So those are the underdogs I like: Landon Quinones, Blake Builder, Pete Rodriguez by first round knockout, Charlie Chuck Buffalo Radke, and Roman Dolidze. We got Justin Hedom gets cash. We got Justin is getting cash, and he's saying anything for prize picks fantasy score wise. So I do have a 3-leg prize picks play this week that I played. I like the under for fantasy points for Gilbert Urbina, 96.5 fantasy points. Gilbert's going to have to probably finish Chuck. So that is a welterweight fight. And when we look at 3-round welterweight fights, 96.5 points, 58% of the winners get that, and only 0.4% of the losers. So basically what you're saying is that even if Gilbert Urbina wins this fight, which I don't think he's going to, there's still only a 58% chance in the welterweight division where we've got how many 3-round fights? 743 3-round fights. So a massive sample size. This guy is going to have to score on Prize Picks more than 96.5 fantasy points. It only happens 58% of the time. And frankly, I think Urbina wins this fight less than 50% of the time. I like Chuck Buffalo to win this fight. So if you take his winning percentage down to like 45%, then you're talking about something around less than a 30% chance that he covers this nut. So I like the under for fantasy points for Gilbert Urbina. My guy Brady, DFS by the numbers, said that he liked the under 88.5 fantasy score for Randy Rude Boy Brown. And that would be a similar situation. You'd be looking at maybe like a 65% rate of guys going over 88.5 Prize Picks points in a 3-round fight. And then you look at Muslim Salikov, and he's a guy that in DraftKings in particular is allowing less than 2 DraftKings points per minute. So that's a problem because you need to have guys that are defensively poor if you're going to be putting points up in this, and you're going to have to get a finish because the average score for somebody that wins by decision, let me get that. I think I've got some analytics here. Yeah, so the DFS scores by round of finish here, right? For Prize Picks, 122 for a first round win in the welterweight division, 115.6 for a second round win, 112.42 for a third round win, but only 79.05 is the average for a decision win. So that is something that you're going to be up against. If this fight, if he doesn't get a finish, there's probably not much of a chance that he's going to cover that nut. So I think Randy Brown's under for fantasy points is something that's very good. And here's the other thing, you guys. Temba Garimbo, 95.5 fantasy score. 95.5 points in that division is even a bigger, or it's right there with Gilbert. So we're looking at about a 58% chance that a winner gets over that number. But here's the thing. On Prize Picks, let me get those analytics back up here for you. Sorry. There we go. We can see work rates per minute. Average of winner and loser in the welterweight division, right? In Prize Picks, when you're striking, this number right here says 2.46 points per minute. But when you're grappling, it's only 1.15 points that are being scored when fights are in control time positions, either in the clinch or on the mat. So that grappling work rate is indicative of telling you grapplers don't score well in Prize Picks. What's Temba Garimbo's path to victory here? He's got to grapple and he's got to finish Pete Rodriguez at that number. So I like Temba Garimbo's under for fantasy points as well. I like the under for Temba. I like the under for Randy Rude Boy Brown. And I like the under for Gilbert Urbina. And I also liked the under for significant strikes right now where it's set for Randy Rude Boy Brown, 66.5. I have my template up for that fight. So 66.5 significant strikes for Randy Rude Boy Brown. Randy Brown has only gotten over that number 3 of 16 times in his 3-round fights, and Muslim Salikov has only absorbed 67 or more significant strikes on only 1 of 9 fights. So that's a combined 16% rate over a 25-fight sample size between Randy Brown's offensive output and Muslim Salikov's defensive output, where we have a number that's 67 or greater. So 16% chance there here. And when we look at Uncle Weezy's tits metric for this particular number, 66.5. I will get that back up here. Hang on just a sec. So here's the Prize Picks analytics for the welterweight division. We're going to find out 66.5. What percentage of people go over that? So that's fantasy scores. Here it is, 66.5. So that is 21.94% for the winner. So 0.2194. The loser gets over that number 9.29% of the time. So that's 0.0929. And on average, that happens 15.6% of the time. So if we take that winning percentage of Randy Brown, which is right around 70%, it would be 0.7 times 0.2194. And then we're going to take 0.3, which is the losing percentage, times 0.0929. We add that to that. I got an 18% tits metric. The tits metric tells us that's the percentage chance that Rude Boy Brown, based on his win percentage, his implied win percentage by the betting line, and the history of the welterweight division, that he gets over 66.5 significant strikes. So 16% of the combined number goes over that. 18% on your Uncle Weezy's tits metric says that there's only an 18% chance that he gets over that. Also, Muslim Salikov, you can see right here, is only allowing 2.91 significant strikes landed per minute. So at that pace, even over a 15-minute fight, he's absorbing about 45 significant strikes. Randy Brown lands 4.38 per minute, which is pretty good. But even at 4.38 per minute, right? Let's say the fight goes the full 15 minutes. That's less than 66 significant strikes, even at Randy Brown's offensive rate. So everything that the analytics is telling us here, a tits metric prediction of 41.68 significant strikes. Randy Brown only scores 46 significant strikes on average and only 54 in his wins. Muslim Salikov is only absorbing 43.33 significant strikes in his losses. So my favorite significant strike prop that I've looked at thus far, Justin, is the under 66.5 significant strikes for Randy Brown on Prize Picks. We got Bob saying, Weezy the legend, what's happening? And we got Jeff Bruno saying he's rest maxing. Yes, he is. I think you're talking about Ali. He's just chilling. 6 years, 2 fights, baby. As Bob's saying, I'm behind on the videos this week, but I am not going to miss a damn thing. I appreciate you, brother. Checking in all the way from the Netherlands, my guy Bob. Appreciate you, my man. We got Terutea saying, I'm getting Randy Brown KO TKO rounds 2 or 3 at plus 1,100 on my books. My official pick is Randy Brown by second round KO. It doesn't feel like a lottery line to me. Thoughts? No, it doesn't. I mean, like, look, Randy Brown's finishing some fights, and Muslim Salikov is 39 years old. Yeah, right, 39. Like, try like 49. That dude's old. Muslim Salikov is really old. So I think we're getting to that point. You know, we know that Father Time is undefeated, and it's just a matter of time before Muslim just doesn't have it anymore. The speed that he relies on to land some of those spinning attacks, the precision with which he has to strike with in order to be effective, it's going to get harder and harder to fight at a high level when you're as advanced in age as he is. And Randy Brown, he's got serious height and reach for the division, and he can be a tricky striker to deal with. So I don't hate it. I'm staying away from that fight. I could never lay that kind of juice on Randy Brown, and I think the best way to do it is to find out whatever you think his best win condition is, and just bet that, because you know this is not a guy that you lay minus 270 on a money line. It's not a good thing. I promise you, you're going to be wondering why he's not throwing enough. Remdog in the room saying, hey, Unc, I don't have much of a read on Medeiros, but Quinones doesn't throw with enough intention for me. I like the over 2.5 rounds at minus 125. What do you think? I'm right there with you, man. I missed it, Remdog. It was sitting at plus 100 when Brady and I were doing Stat Diggers on Pub Sports Radio on Sunday, and we both said that we liked it. I didn't pull the trigger. Then all of a sudden it was minus 115. I liked it there as well. Didn't pull the trigger, went to sleep, woke up the next day, it was minus 125. It still gets my stamp of approval at that price. Neither one of these guys has ever been finished as a professional, and I think they're both gamers. Medeiros will panic wrestle as soon as he gets hurt badly. I promise that. Whether it works or not, we'll see. But I think Quinones has some pretty good power in his own right, Remdog, and he works the body well, and he can wear you down late in fights. But I like the over 2.5 here. I think it hits. And then in my 3-leg prize picks play that I put out this week, it's in my Discord for my Patreon members. It was the Randy Brown under for significant strikes. It was the Medeiros over 12.5 minutes of fight time. So I have this over 2.5 as a prize picks play as well. And then I believe it was the Gilbert Urbina under for fantasy score that I liked as well. And I also like that Temba Garimbo under for fantasy score as well. So I'm right there with you, Remdog. I think that's a fantastic bet this week. Favorite underdog, says Spedding. That's a good question. I gave it as the Bootsy Collins Memorial Dog pick of the week this week is Roman Dolidze. I also really like Chuck Buffalo at a plus 175. I think that's a great number. I'm not a believer yet in Gilbert Urbina. He's going to have to prove it to me. And if he beats Chuck and does it convincingly, I'll be on board. But until that happens, I got to believe that the value is on Chuck Buffalo at plus 175-ish. I got him at plus 180. I would say that Dolidze and Chuck are my two favorites this week. The Weezy stamp of approval. Yes, sir. Let's go. We got Jeff saying, I like Molly inside the distance, no action. Yeah, I do too. Molly is extremely hard to finish if there's no submission threat, and there is no submission threat from Deanna Belbita. When we were doing the DFS show earlier on Pub Sports Radio, somebody in the chat said that Diana's talking about retiring, and she's in her 20s. So if that's the case, Deanna's never been much of a finisher at this level. Prior to the UFC, she was definitely a finisher, but fighting on a regional scene, you just don't know what the level of competition is. So I think that the finish-only prop for Molly McCann is a very safe place to put your money this week. If it goes to decision, you get your money back. If it cashes, you get a little bit of a return, but I'm sure it's probably juiced up a lot, Jeff, but it's still a very safe place in my opinion. Bob's saying he's got big units on Moicano at minus 110. There you go. That's a great line, dude. He's minus 190 right now. Parlay pieces. Fight doesn't go to decision for Moicano. I'm with you there. I think that's a fantastic parlay piece. Fight doesn't go to decision for Pete Rodriguez. I think that's a fantastic parlay piece. Natalia Silva money line. Yes. Natalia Silva money line. I like that. The Natalia over, I think Natalia might be able to finish her. Vivi's never been finished in the UFC, but I mean, Natalia's striking is really something special. The Azat over, I love that. Then you got Pete Rodriguez to win under 1.5 rounds. I like that as well, dude. I love all those spots, Bob. We're definitely on the same page. Moicano at minus 110 is a phenomenal line. And right now he's minus 190. So even if you wanted to, you could get some Dover at plus 165. Guarantee yourself a profit if you get cold feet with that bet. And with Drew Dober, he could always knock you out, but it's to get him at that price, it's hard to hedge out because you beat the line by so much. Those are all great spots, and they get the bam Uncle Weezy stamp of approval. Bob, let's go, baby. Alex Spedding saying Molly McCann sucks. We'll see how she looks at 115. Alex, she has been a tough out in the UFC when her opponents aren't dominant grapplers, because she brings a kind of a unique style. She's got good boxing. She pressures. She's mean. She throws with power and purpose. And even though she's got very short reach, you know, she can definitely land with some power in this division and really just kind of like out mean and out fight her female opponents. And I don't think she sucks. I just think that when she goes up against somebody like Blanchfield, like somebody against Stolyarenko, somebody like Taylor Santos, you know, somebody that can take you down and just maul you, Jillian Robertson, you know, it's a terrible, terrible matchup for her. It's not the kind of fight that she's going to excel in. But Diana Belbita, that's a good matchup for Molly. And Molly 30-25'd her on all three scorecards the first time they fought. But Diana's older now and in her prime, and Molly is exiting her prime. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. And always the cut down to 115 at the age of 33, you know, it worries me a little bit, but I mean, I think like Molly, it's not like she was like sucked out at 125, you know. I mean, like I think that this is going to be a fairly easy cut for her. Bob's saying small dog shots on Luana Carolina, Mahmoud Muradov, and Roman Dolidze. Yeah, I don't hate any of those dog shots. I've got a half unit on Stolyarenko by first round submission at plus 480. But, you know, I feel like if it gets out of the first round, then, you know, I mean, we've just never seen Julia have much success after round one in any of her fights. So we'll see what happens. We got Jay's MMA saying I might do a long shot parlay, throw a couple bucks on it. Builder, Pete Rodriguez, Radke, and Natalia Silva. I might switch Quinones with Builder. Are you not confident in Quinones or Builder? I'm picking them both to win, but I'm not picking them to win being like, oh, Quinones is going to dust Medeiros. Builder is going to destroy Jun Yong Lee. I think plus money on a guy like Quinones, plus money on a guy like Builder, when I think that they should be the slight favorite, is a bet worth making. If you think that if you've got Quinones and Builder, let's say like I do, at like a 55% win implied probability, and you can get Builder at plus 120, you can get Quinones at plus 105. Those are bets that you should be making over the long term. I'm waiting to see where these lines go, but I would say that because Builder's sitting around plus 120, plus 125, that I would rather bet him than Quinones at plus 105. You know what I'm saying? Because I still think that the edge in the bet is better on the Builder side. But I would rather. I'm just as let's just say I got Quinones and Builder at 55%. That's where I have them. So I'm equally confident that both of them win. Thank you. Thank you, man. Hey, this is Ask Weezy. You asked me a question, a great question, an MMA related question. That's all I can do is give you the best breakdown I can. We got Fight Talk only in the room. What's up, dude? Saying what's up, T.O. Weezy. Stolyarenko sub round one plus, oh shit, KO round one. Where does that come out to? That's a cheeky parlay. So let's have a look-see. Stolyarenko parlay sub round one is still plus 480. That is such a good line. I thought I was going to beat line movement there. It's still there. And then we got Pete Rodriguez, first round KO. Let me go to the fight parlays here. Plus 550. 36.7 to 1. Whoo! That's a nice Lambo parlay there, man. I might have to sprinkle a little bit on that right there. Put 10 or 20 bucks on that, and then maybe just go out for a nice dinner or something like that. That is a nice little parlay, and I've already got the Pete Rodriguez bet. I've already got the Julia Stolyarenko bet, but they're both plus money, and if they both hit, man, to have a quarter unit on this thing would be pretty nice, man. That'd be a pretty nice hit. I like that a lot. We got Antonio in the room saying, "Oh, what's up, Unc? I'm doing good, man. It's Wednesday night. We're talking fights here. 37 of you hanging out live right now for Ask Weezy. Put those questions in the chat for me. Let me know if my stats can help you make better gambling decisions this week. Please consider joining the Patreon. Hit that thumbs up. hit that subscribe if you haven't already, and leave me a comment down below. If you're watching on the replay and you got any questions you want me to answer, put them in the comments down below. Happy to answer them for you guys. Always love interacting with you. Thanks for supporting me. Thanks for supporting the channel. Thank you for supporting the Patreon. We got Go Flamingo in the room. He is saying, what's up, Weezy? What was the ass shaving of the week again, and how confident are you in it? So the ass shaving of the week is Thomas the Train Peterson to shave the fat, lazy arse of Jamal Pogues. I am confident enough in it to have 3.5 units, 1.5 units short of a max bet for me on the Thomas Peterson money line. And I also have 1.15 units on the minus 115 fight doesn't go to decision, because I think Thomas is going to finish Jamal Pogues in the spot. So the ass shaving of the week is Thomas Peterson, and I am almost 5 units deep, 4.65 units deep on Peterson's money line and Peterson violence prop here. So that's what we have, and I am unusually confident in it this week. So we'll see if Thomas can go out there, get those takedowns. And if he does, man, he is really good on top. He can put together some serious ground and pound, and he has a knack of getting to his opponent's back, flattening them out, and finishing with that ground and pound. So I do definitely like Thomas Peterson a lot this week. We got Mountain Bets in the room saying, hey, man, how's it going? I am doing good. Love breaking down fights with you guys. Let me know if you got any questions. Mountains Bet. Yes, sir. The tits metric, your Uncle Weezy's tits metric, is not just tits because it's a great metric for determining, somebody's probability of going over or under a certain number based on the divisional history and based on their win or loss percentage. But it's a tip of the cap to the great Belgian mathematician, Jacques Tits. Rest in peace. A giant in the field of geometry, gave us the tits metric, gave us tits buildings, gave us the tits workaround. Jacques Tits, stand up. Absolute legend. Thank you for bringing it up, my man. We got Victor de Jesus in the room saying, oi, yes, what's up, Weezy in chat? Didn't realize you were going live tonight until just now. I'm here listening. Good to have you hanging out in here, Vic. Always good to have the real ones, the supporters with us here, man. So let me know if you got any questions, brothers. I don't think Brown finishes. Salikov says Lone Wolf. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm picking Randy Brown to win by decision. And if it does win by decision, Salikov's hard to score off of, and Randy Brown doesn't wrestle much. So you would rely on some knockdowns or some high volume for him to get over that fantasy score prop. And if you don't get either, you're probably not going to get it. So yeah, we'll see though. It's an interesting fight. I see you're on Peterson. I like him too. Any feel on why so many sharps have been big on Pogues this week? Look, there's a lot of reasons to like Pogues, Mountain Bets. First of all, Pogues is taller. Pogues has a reach advantage over him. Pogues is more experienced overall and in the UFC. I think Pogues has fought the tougher guys overall. Pogues is the better minute winner at distance striking range. All those things are true. But styles make fights. And we saw Alex Polizzi go out there and just out wrestle Jamal Pogues at 205 pounds for 4 rounds before he finally locked up a leg lock and finished Jamal. Thomas has got really good wrestling. This guy's a 2-time Minnesota State champion wrestler in high school, 1-time NAIA national champion over at Iowa Central, a school that's legendary for launching the careers of some of the best mixed martial artists of all time. And this guy is somebody who's had problems finding fights. His wrestling absolutely checks out. So Pogues is a guy who doesn't have a lot of power. So when this fight is on the feet, when you watch Thomas Peterson's tape, he's got serious power in his left hand, you guys. He reminds me a little bit of Rinat Fakhretdinov in that when you're on the feet against Rinat, he's always live to land a big shot. And that ability to land the big shot is set up by the threat of the wrestling. So I don't really think Jamal Pogues is going to go out here and stuff a bunch of takedowns and keep this standing. But even if he does, This guy is very low volume on the feet. He kind of pumps a jab out there. Thomas Peterson might actually win enough moments on the feet to win a striking base 3-round decision, which I think is a very small percentage of his win percentage. But I don't think you can count on this guy, Jamal Pogues, to win minutes unless he has a wrestling advantage over somebody, because then he can box and the boxing will be better, and because it's set up by the threat of his wrestling. But against Thomas Peterson's the better wrestler here, you guys. He's the bigger dude. He's got the way better wrestling pedigree, and he's shown it over and over and over again that not only can he just wrestle, but when fights get to the ground, he can finish with ground and pound, which we've never seen Jamal Pogues do against anybody that wasn't like 0-0. So yeah, there's just a massive power differential. There's a massive wrestling differential, and there's a massive danger differential on the ground here in favor of Thomas Peterson. So these guys who are on Pogues this week, I think that they're just going to be very disappointed, because I'm not sure where he's winning minutes in this fight or moments. How does the Peterson versus Jamal fight play out? In my opinion, first round knockout or second round knockout for Thomas the Train Peterson on the ground, ground and pound knockout. That's how I see it. That's how I see it playing out. Look, if you go back and you watch Thomas Peterson's third round loss to Waldo Cortez Acosta, look what happens. Thomas gets him down in both rounds, and that fight was scheduled for 5 rounds, not 3. So in the third round, when Tom was tired, he couldn't wrestle anymore because there was still 15 minutes left in the fight. It would be different against Pogues. He would be able to wrestle in the third round against Pogues because the fight's not scheduled for 25 full minutes. I mean, Cortez Acosta is incredibly durable and incredibly well conditioned for a heavyweight, but Thomas almost finishes him in the first and second round. I don't think Pogues is that durable, man. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it plays out close at all. And the problem is, here's my opinion too. If you're on the Pogues side, wait until round 1 is over, because Jamal Pogues is finishing nobody in round 1. I mean, this guy had a fight with Josh Parisian where he couldn't really do much to Josh Parisian on the ground. Dude, Thomas Peterson would be minus 1,000 against Josh Parisian. It will be one takedown and it's over. I mean, Parisian's got a miserable ground game. Very, 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 very bad. And if Tom got him down, it would be over. Pogues got him down 5 times and really didn't do any damage. So, yeah, I don't think it plays out close. I think Peterson's going to shave his ass. Hanato doesn't start round 3. Thoughts? All right, let's look at my prop template. I mean, this is Abdi. Abdi, my stylistic read is that this fight finishes inside the distance, man. And fight doesn't start round 3. Minus 186 is the line that I've seen most recently. Now, that's a 65% implied probability. Fight doesn't start round 3 in the lightweight division about 43.69% of the time. But 8 of 12 Moicano fights and 14 of 22 Dober fights have finished under in round 1 or round 2 at the UFC level. So that's a 34 fight sample size, a robust sample size for us to draw data from. These guys are going under 64.71% of the time, and we're paying 65% on the line. So in my opinion, when that number here is around the same as this number, that's considered what I would consider a fairly priced line. So if it's a fairly priced line, and my stylistic read, which is while this fight is on the feet, Drew Dober is going to be extremely dangerous and have a lot of finishing equity. And while this fight is on the mat, Renato Moicano is going to be very dangerous and have a ton of finishing equity. So it's a striker versus grappler matchup where wherever the fight goes, somebody is going to be able to finish this fight. I think minus 186 for fight doesn't start round 3 could be like a nice greasy 4-leg parlay piece this week. It gets the Uncle Weezy, bam, stamp of approval as a good bet, as a bet where the stylistic read lines up with the fact that it's not overpriced according to the stylistic components of this fight. Mountain Bet saying, do you have a Bet MMA tips to check or do you not track? Yes, I do have a Bet MMA tips. I am Uncle Weezy on Bet MMA tips. Bet MMA tips / Uncle Weezy. I do track career 5% return on investment. I'm not happy with that. It needs to get a lot better than that. But I do track all my bets, and I've been doing so all of 2023, all of 2022, and the last 4 months of 2021. Good week for a big dog parlay. I agree, man. There's a lot of dogs I think are very live this week. Well, but you just never know, man. There's been a lot of dogs that have been cashing the last couple of weeks. So we'll see how it all shakes out this week. But I think that there are reasons to like a lot of the dogs this week. I haven't seen this many dogs in one card in a while. Yeah, man, there's a lot of live dogs, a lot of closely lined fights. Thanks, Weezy, my man. You got it, dude. Let's stack those flapjacks, brother. Let's get it, baby. I feel you on the over in the Natalia fight. I feel like because Araujo will look for takedowns. I see Natalia outstriking her from the outside. Worried about a head kick, though. Yeah, I mean, I bet Natalia Silva to win in round 3 at plus 1,400 for a quarter unit. Natalia Silva's phenomenal. But Vivi Araujo is extremely durable. She's never been finished in the UFC, and she's fought some extremely tough opponents. So, yeah, I mean, I think that there's a good reason why the over is juiced to the tits here, but I think the under might actually be kind of a sneaky play this week because Natalia Silva, her finishing equity is very underrated. She's fought some really tough girls. She would have finished anybody but Jasmine Jasdavicius in that fight. She beat 7 shades of shit out of Jasmine. But Jasmine is ridiculously tough. She's got a heart as big as a truck, and she kept coming forward, kept trying to win that fight to the final bell. I don't think there's a lot of girls that could take a beating like that. Real Fight Pick saying cheeky is a nice way of putting it. If you trust Rodriguez, don't do it. LOL. Now I got a half unit on Rodriguez. First round quarter unit. First round knockout. But yeah, I don't trust Temba. Temba's not good. I mean, before the Pete Rodriguez matchup, they had him fighting Kiefer Crosby. They're giving him before that it was Takashi Sato. You know, they're giving him the absolute bottom of the barrel, the worst guys. Those are the worst 3 guys in the welterweight division. So besides Temba Garimbo, right? So yeah, I it's not that I think that Rodriguez is a phenomenal athlete. It's just that Temba is not trustworthy. And if he's unable to take down and hold down Pete early, Pete's going to be landing big shots. You just watch. But Temba might out wrestle him. So I'm just not laying that juice. We got my Kiwi in the room saying, sure, all what is up, Kiwi? We got Real Fight Pick saying, I Weezy, I respect your ass shaving pick. Not all worried about him being undersized. No, man. I mean, keep in mind, Pogues, you can go back and watch his fights at 205. Pogues is kind of a fat 205er, you know? So, no, I'm not worried about him being undersized in this spot because Tom is not the type of fighter where you have to worry about a reach disadvantage because he's not going to sit at range and try to out jab Jamal Pogues. When you watch this dude fight, he closes distance. He throws big left hands. He uses those striking entries to set up the entries on his takedowns. He's got a good process for somebody with the skill set and the size and body frame that he has. Yeah, it was. But do you remember who he wrestled? Do you remember that the guy was a 170 pounder, that had moved up to heavyweight? Did it bother you at all that trash bag of a fighter that Jamal was scared to strike with him? So the problem here is that I like Jamal Pogues, actually. He's got good minute winning and his boxing is crisp. He's fast. He's tall. He's long for the division. He's got some pretty good experience. Trained under Joe Stevenson. He's got a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. He's a well-rounded fighter. But if he doesn't have a wrestling advantage, look at the fights and how they play out. He's not putting a stamp on fights. He's not really even knocking guys out at 205. So the takedown defense is going to have to be elite to stop somebody that's been an NAIA national champion. This guy, Thomas Peterson, he's been on the mat since he was 3 years old. This guy is coming to wrestle. And I don't think Jamal is out wrestling him. I just don't see it happening. But, what about it? I mean, that's what we're going to figure out. We're going to find out on Saturday. I'm putting my money where my mouth is, man. Steve saying, what about his Rav? I can't trust his Rav, because of the layoff. But this guy's everything that we see on tape from him absolutely checks out. He's a phenomenal fighter when he shows up to fight. But now he's 33 years old. This guy is a welterweight. He's not a middleweight. He's just a fat middleweight. So he's not cutting weight. He's not showing up to fight. He's not getting fights scheduled. And this is not the organization where you can sit there and cry and say people won't fight me. They'll get people to fucking fight you. This is the UFC. They're not going to let, great fighters sit on the sideline because people aren't picking up the phone. They're going to make sure that, like, if you're not willing to fight this guy, that they're going to send you packing. They're going to put you in the penalty box. They're going to make it hard for you to earn money. So, I think Kisra wins the fight if we see the old Ali Hisrav, and he's been training at ATT. So if you're at American Top Team, you're probably getting everything you need in order to perform well at the UFC level. I just don't know. He's 33 years old now. The tape that we have of this guy against people that aren't complete cans, like Dennis Teolulin and Enrique Shigemoto on Dana White's Contender Series, all that tape is 7 years old at this point. So I don't know. I don't know about that dude. Moicano, Dolidze, McCann, Thomas, Moneyline, and plus 750. Yes, I do. I like all four of those to win. I'm picking Moicano to win. I'm picking Dolidze to win. I'm picking McCann to win. And I'm picking Thomas Peterson for Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. So that is a nice looking 4-leg parlay at plus 750. Shit, man, that could be the goddamn... That could be the greasy 4-legger this week. Who is Hisraev beat? He's beaten some decent guys on the regional scene. He was fighting in Russia. So he does have a win over Husamar Palhares, but he cheated in that fight horribly. Palhares rolled for a leg lock, and Hisraev put not one, but two hands on the fence, grabbed while he took his free foot and almost kicked Paul Harris in the face while he yanked out the other foot. And then, and the ref was standing right there, didn't say anything. It was Husamar Paul Harris, one of the most hated mixed martial artists in the entire world, who was dumb enough to take a fight in Russia, where they probably told him, hey, just don't let him get a hold of your leg in the center of the fucking octagon. Be by the cage if he's going to roll for a leg, and you can just grab the fence as much as you want, and you can get it. That way he can't get you where you're off balance. So Husamar Palhares probably his best win. What else? Palhares. So there he is. Yusube Enomoto, who's a veteran. He's from Switzerland, Fight Nights Global. Matek Truhan, 11-6. And then like this fight against the Zalamudin Magomedov fight was pretty hilarious. Like, you watch that fight and it's in a gym. It's not like an actual event, and like the crowd is on the apron of the ring. So when one of the fighters gets backed up into the ropes, they're actually touching the audience. It's fucking wild. And he takes down this guy Magomedov. Like, he throws a couple of like spinning hook kicks. They miss by a mile. Kisraev takes him down, and then for 3 minutes and 15 seconds, not stopping, punches this guy in the face, just rapid fire. And the ref doesn't stop it for some reason for like over 3 minutes. It's bizarre. Kisraev does not have a lot of good wins, you guys. Plain and simple. Shigemoto, Palhares, Enomoto. And neither of these guys are Japanese. Enrique Shigemoto is Brazilian. Yasube Enomoto is from Switzerland. So these are like fake Japanese dudes, you know. But anyway, yeah, he doesn't have. Do you see Mirov is able to upset? Sure. If he keeps the fight standing, he can absolutely outstrike this guy. If he stuffs the takedowns, he can absolutely outstrike this dude. Miradov's got phenomenal striking. He's a sniper. He has power. He has length. He has height. He's a natural middleweight. So it's going to be up to Ali to close the distance here, and he can get clipped coming in because Miradov's got great lateral movement and footwork that he uses to deal with pressure really well. And if Hizraev is unable to get him to the ground, I think that there's a really good chance that Miradov wins this fight. We got Gogo Flamingo is in the room saying, sure, kiwi, did you know the humble kiwi fruit was originally called the Chinese gooseberry? Name changed for marketing to the West in the 1930s. Yes, and kiwi does know that. And I've heard of gooseberries. They're like, I've had gooseberries before. They're really good, but they're like a yellow small berry. I used to get them up in Michigan. Call them ground cherries as well, I think, over in this part. Matt R saying, brother, you're the only one on C. Oh, you're the only one who I see is convicted on Thomas Peterson. Well, I mean, not really, Matt. I mean, like, there's a lot of people that like Peterson this week along with me. I think there's some people who think that there is value on Pogues at plus 180, plus 160, he's around plus 140 now. And Pogues, I mean, like, dude, Bet Online opened Thomas Peterson and his money line. Where? Oh, wait, no, we just click right here at minus 163. He opened at minus 170, and it sat there for 2 weeks before it moved to minus 250. So, I mean, if Bet Online is opening it at minus 270, I'm not the only one that's on Peterson. I'm very convicted on him, and I'm fine with that because, like, if everybody else was as convicted on Peterson as I am, I wouldn't have even bet him this week because he would have been minus 350 and there would have been no value. But I'm really glad that people think that Pogues is going to be able to win enough minutes of this fight in order to get the dub because I don't see him out wrestling Thomas Peterson. If I'm wrong about that, I'm wrong. But I don't even think he wins the minutes on the feet all the time because Tom pressures and Tom throws with a lot more power and purpose than Jamal does. Yeah, Pogues is trash. Pogues is not trash, though. I mean, the heavyweight division is a very low-skill division. So there's going to be a lot of matchups that Pogues has where he's going to have a wrestling advantage. And when he has a wrestling advantage, he's going to be able to win fights. Look what happened when he fought Parisian. He got that win. He out-wrestled that dude. He got 5 takedowns. Parisian only got 1. So, you know, he was able to out-wrestle Parisian, and because of that, he got that win. You know, the heavyweight division is a very low-skill division, and Pogues is fast. He's tall. He's long. He's pretty experienced. He's got good minute winning in the boxing, and he's got good wrestling. So he's going to find good matchups. I see why people are picking him. The style of the matchup for me is just terrible for him. Bob saying, I made an account on Bet MMA Tips as well. I started gambling with units from 2022, and it turns out I would be like top 25 on Bet MMA Tips in just 2 years. Oh, dude. Yeah, I mean, like if you're top 25 on that row of killers there, man, that is a serious feather in your cap, man. That would be really phenomenal, dude. Unfortunately, I did not make a Bet MMA Tips account when I started betting, so now I'm like barely number 600. Yeah, man, that's how it goes, dude. You know, when that they call that the tracking curse. Like most people, they win some bets, and then they're like, oh, I'm going to start tracking. I'm going to start showing everybody how good I am, and then your process starts changing just a little bit when you start tracking, and I went down like something like 17 units in the first 6 weeks that I tracked. I like had a couple weeks where I was up and down, and then it was like 4, down 4, down 4, down 4, down 4. And before I knew it, I was like, man, I should just trash this fucking account and start from scratch. I didn't do that, but like, yeah, you can see it on my Bet MMA Tips account. Like you can see this right here. You know, you see like, oh, I'm just kind of breaking even, then bam, all of a sudden I'm down like minus 18.4 units. And then from there, it's just kind of like this steady uptrend. But I've been, I'm looking to break out. I got to get a breakout, get a couple big wins in a row here to get back into this nice little upstream that we've been in here. So yeah, man, the parlays are starting to work out a little bit better. Still doing good on the props, but the straight picks last year, I was picking way too many underdogs and refusing to lay the juice when it was appropriate. So yeah, that's how it goes, man. It's all right. King Bicky saying Pete was the one to get rid of Mike Jackson. Pete came out throwing hammers. Pete came out throwing hammers against Jack Della too. That was a really fun fight while that one lasted. Mike Jackson should have never been allowed to set foot in the octagon. Yeah, they signed Mike Jackson because they had kind of like this weird thing going where they had CM Punk and they signed CM Punk to the UFC, but they couldn't give him like a real fighter. So they found like Mickey Gall off the regional scene who only had like 3 fights, and they brought in Mike Jackson, and then those 3 fought each other. It was like Gall fought CM Punk, Jackson fought CM Punk, and then Jackson and Jackson and Gall fought each other as well. And then once they got that out of the way, then they just kind of like set Jackson to the side, but he still had a fight in his contract. They gave him the Dean Barry fight, and he won it because he got kicked in the sack twice in a row. Broke DGen saying, so man, I missed this. I have notifications and all bells on. Really? Damn, dude. Like that's bullshit. Sometimes YouTube just doesn't get the job done in sending the notifications out on time. I always send out the notices on Twitter, but not everybody's like checking Twitter all the time. But good to see you hanging out, Broke DGen. Always good to have you hanging out here. Matt R saying, well, the opening line doesn't mean people are on him. The closing line does. By the way, I'm on Peterson too, but all the other guys I watch have been liking Pogues. Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of guys liking Pogues. I just don't think that their arguments hold any water. I mean, do they really think he's going to go out there? I mean, I guess if you think he's going to stuff the takedowns, be my guest. But those people couldn't have watched the Alex Polizzi fight. Because if you watch the Alex Polizzi fight, you would know that if Jamal Pogues goes up against somebody who actually did grow up wrestling, which Jamal didn't, Jamal's a mixed martial artist. He's got MMA wrestling, and that's a good thing because there's a lot of parts of wrestling in college, in high school that don't translate. Open mat wrestling is different than wrestling in the cage. Wrestling barefoot is different than wrestling with shoes, knee pads, all this stuff, headgear even. There are things that you can use to your advantage, in a college wrestling environment that you can't in MMA. So it's not bad that Pogues has an MMA wrestling background, but Jamal Pogues wasn't, wrestling at a high level in college or even high school. I don't think, this is a guy who's a fighter. Peterson's been on the mat since the age of 3. Watch that guy's single leg entries. I mean, watch how fast he runs that pipe. Look at when he gets body locks. He gets the body lock. He goes for the Uchimata. He'll get that overhook with the right arm. He'll step in front with the right leg, and he'll drag you over the right leg. And as soon as you start to go the other way, he takes that reaping leg and he puts it behind your leg, and then he brings that other arm, which was pulling you, and now it's pushing you with your throat, and you wind up right on your back. Perfect technique, perfect timing, using the Uchimata to get the actual back trip, setting up your preferred takedown with your dummy takedown that gets the guy reacting the way that you want him to react. Everything that Thomas Peterson does in the wrestling is high level, and we've seen other high level wrestlers really, really make Jamal Pogues look bad, and this one's going to be no different. King Bicky says he wants to rewatch the Mick Parkin and Pogues fight again. Parkin might be a problem. Don't watch that fight, dude. Like, that's another thing, dude. That performance by Jamal Pogues, how you could watch that fight and then bet real money on this guy after that performance. He looked fatter than shit. I don't care. Oh, it was in England. What? You can't fucking buy a flight out there a week early? Get used to the time change. This is your career, son. Don't give me excuses that you had, I had to fly overseas. Yeah, you're in the UFC now. Fly overseas, get acclimated. Don't go out there and do that, dude. That was a pathetic performance. He got outstruck like 3-1. He threw no volume. That was like a couple notches over a William Knight performance versus Pragnio. I think I was watching just the tip and was just too focused. Broke DGen in the house. Parkin is overrated. He arguably lost it. Yeah, the dude, I parlayed Mick Parkin against Kyle Machado, and that was a close fight, man. I was not thrilled with my Parkin parlay piece there. I wasn't thrilled with it. It cashed, but I did not chalk that up and like break my arm patting myself on the back for that bet. We got Rouse is saying, "Oi, Weezy, good luck on all your bets this weekend. Do you like Azat to get more than 3.5 takedowns and Silva to get more than 75.5 significant strikes? Vivi absorbs 106 significant strikes in her 3-round losses." Yeah, so I do like Silva to get over 75.5 significant strikes. It's a fairly high number. Your threshold on that is quite a bit, but Natalia Silva at distance lands 6.69 significant strikes per minute spent at distance, and Vivi's absorbing that many. So at that rate, you could say, so 6.69 and 6.78. So we'll just say 6.7. 6.7 times 11 is 73.7. So if this fight goes over, if this fight spends about 11.5 minutes at distance striking range, you got a really good chance to cover that over. And I think that it probably goes into the third round for sure. And if there's not a lot of grappling, I think Silva can get more than 75.5. But keep in mind, that is a big number. I can show you what the nut is on that, right? Here in my database, I can go to the women's 115-pound division. I've got every fight that's ever happened in the history of the women's 115-pound division in this spreadsheet. And 75.5 significant strikes. The winner gets over that number only 30% of the time. The loser gets over that number only about 15% of the time. So that is a big nut to cover. But when you've got ladies who are landing up between 6 and 7 distance strikes per minute, and the fight is favored to go the distance, you've got a good chance of covering that. Yeah, I feel you on that tracking curse. Even when I try to tip my friends, it seems harder, haha. But I really tried to not change my process and track as much as possible. Yes, sir. That is for sure. I am more of a volume better. I'm trying to be a higher volume better as well, because I have too many analytics and statistics at my fingertips, and I watch too much tape to not follow my reads when they're there. Let's see. Matt R saying, "You make some great points, dude. I have a small phone and sausage fingers. Bad combo." I hear you, man. I could never watch this shit on a phone and try to type at the same time, man. I have to be on my laptop, which is right in front of me here. I got big keys for my sausage fingers. And it's I know what you're saying. We got Steve saying, "Love your Sunday stat diggers, Weez. You and Brady are top notch. Chinese takeout plus stat tiggers. It is a Sunday tradition now." Yeah, man, I love our show, dude. I've been doing that show with Brady now for 2 years, I think. And it's a fantastic show. We have so much fun doing it. And it's the first show of the week where you really get to kind of break down the card in depth. And we work really hard to be ready for that show by Sunday night every week. So always have the stats ready, always have the reads ready, and we have a great time doing it. So I appreciate you checking in, Steve. We've got Bob saying, "Since I started on Bet MMA Tips, somehow I am losing straight bets like a motherfucker." Yeah, I've been just trying to touch up too many underdogs. And then it's, the dangerous thing about betting underdogs, you have to really trust your process, because you're going to lose more than you win. And it's very easy to like bet some underdogs, make good bets, lose some close ones, and then you get discouraged. And then the week where you have 3 underdogs that you think are going to come through, and then you don't bet any of them because you've been getting clipped on underdogs every week for like the last month, then all 3 of them come in, plus 170, plus 180, plus 120, and you're like, there's 4.2 units. And I only lost 3 units betting on underdogs the last couple of weeks. Would have covered all of it. But that's the dangerous thing about taking those plus money spots, is that you have to stick with it, and you have to have a good process for why you're making those bets, because the wins are going to come. But if you get discouraged, then by the time your reads are right, you're not going to be making the bets. It would be an honor if you tailed my parlay for the greasy 4-leg parlay. I got 20 to win, 170. Australian odds are slightly better than U.S. odds, but not by much. Yeah, I like all those spots, dude. And like, there are enough underdogs on this card that you can put an underdog and an even money in there, and then have like a Molly McCann and an Natalia Silva and still get plus 700. So yeah, man, it's definitely a good look, Gogo. You never know, man. You might find out on Friday that is the greasy 4-leg parlay this week. Bob saying, Weezy speaking truth as always. Appreciate you, my brother. I appreciate you hanging out, man. We got King Dicky saying, if Charles Johnson loses this fight, it could be a cut. It may push the action. I like fight does not go the distance. Yeah, he's got to change something about the way that he fights, but I was watching Dan Levy this week, and Dan Levy, he's friends with Cody Durden, and he was telling a story about how after Cody Durden beat Charles Johnson, they were backstage talking, and Cody was like telling him, hey, dude, you're good. You're a damn good fighter. You just need to work on your wrestling. You should just take 6 months off, work that wrestling really hard, work on these, and he was telling him what things that he felt like he needed to work on in order to be able to stuff the takedowns so that he could keep fights standing and out volume and outwork his opponents at range, which would be a good style for him. And Charles like, nah, fuck that. I'm getting back in there as soon as possible. As soon as possible. That was the story that he told. That's what Cody told Dan Levy. And it's just such a, like, when you have that dumb of a haircut, of course you're going to make dumb decisions and not try to get better and not realize the changes that you need to make in order to make your career something that you can count on to fund your lifestyle for a long period of time because you're actually good at it. He doesn't know how to be good at it. He's never really thought how to curate a style that can make him fight to his strengths. So I don't think Charles Johnson's learned anything. He's already old for the weight class. So I don't think he's going to get any new tricks in his bag. And the tricks that are there, he doesn't throw enough. Even when he was LFA champion, he's losing the first 3 rounds of those fights and then taking over in rounds 4 and 5. There's no rounds 4 and 5 unless you get to the top 5 in the UFC, and he's nowhere near it. So he needs to cultivate a style that works for 3 rounds, which means that he needs to stuff takedowns immediately, not wait 10 minutes and get taken down and lose 2 rounds and then try to come back and win in the third. He needs to stuff takedowns immediately, and he needs to start throwing volume immediately. He needs to start putting a pace on his opponents immediately, right away in round 1. Use your gifts. You have length. You have conditioning. Use that length, that distance striking range to outvolume your opponents. Start fast. He doesn't do any of that shit. And he's not learning either. So I think Azat Maksum is going to beat him. I don't care what the circumstances are. What I see from Charles Johnson in the cage, his fight IQ makes about as much sense as his fucking haircut does, ladies and gentlemen. So Azat Maksum by decision. Never scared to bet dogs, says Matt R. Short notice fight. He won't get cut even with a loss, especially at flyweight. Yeah, and yeah, he does. He's stepped up and taken a lot of short notice fights. So when you're doing that, you're not getting better in the gym. Brady Stevens, he likes Dolidze as a dog. Dude is good. Had a very close fight against Marvin Vettori, and he fought that right style. He walked forward. He pressured. He forced the fight. He's going to have to do that against Imavov as well. Dolidze is your Uncle Weezy's Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week. So I'm right there with you, Brady. I've already got 1 unit bet on his finish only prop, and I'm probably going to chase that with some money line action as well. We got Bob Spikerman saying, for me, after I am done with my research, feel like I have such a good read on almost every fight, and then I feel like I'm missing out if I don't bet it. Yeah. So I'm laying a lot of units every week, but it works out for me, man. There you go, man. There you go. If you're going to put the time into the fight, find out those reads that you have and see if you can find good plus money spots for them and bet them. Weezy, who is the most autistic fighter in the UFC? Artistic or autistic? Because I would have to say it's Tony Ferguson. I mean, even from day one, that dude was weird, just different. Maybe like Diego Sanchez was somebody who was always just different, willing to do things different. I remember back to Luke Kumo in the old Ultimate Fighter days. He was just a weird, different dude in that house. Oh God. There's some those would be the names that I can think of. There are a lot of older school names, but that's what I would say, man. Brady saying, awesome, love the show. Yeah, Ferguson Sanchez. Yeah, there you go, man. If Molly looks horrible on the scale, is Belbita a play? Yeah, if she looks horrible on the scale, I think at plus 240, you could take the shot. And if it's plus 240, you can bet accordingly. It won't be a huge loss if you lose. But yeah, I mean, I think Molly's going to probably look good on the scale. I think she's probably been a 115er all along that just didn't feel like cutting the weight. So I think she's probably going to look good, and if she looks good, I think her style is really bad for Deanna. I think Molly gets the win, but we got to see her on the scale. Have to see her on the scale. It's essential information. We got Bob saying, already pumped for Just the Tip next week. It's great for bets, in my opinion. Yeah, man, even if the great thing about Just the Tip is that I'm going to give you all the information. So you don't even have to give a shit what I think. I'm going to present to you all the tail of the tape information, all the experience information, all the finish stats information, the offensive and defensive significant striking stats, the offensive and defensive distance striking stats, the offensive and defensive clinch and ground striking stats, offensive and defensive grappling stats, control time stats, last five. And I break down all of it. I write up, you guys know all the fight write-ups, right? I mean, you guys have all seen it. This goes out to the Patreon members every week. My Just the Tip notes. Peterson Pogues write-up. Canonis Marquez write-up. Carolina Stoliarenko, 30 pages, 32 pages, you guys, of fight write-ups here. So you're getting all the information. You don't necessarily even have to listen to who I'm picking. You can tail me, you can fade me, it doesn't matter. But Just the Tip's a great show because it gives you all the information. I go in depth on every fight. I leave no stone unturned, present the information to you. At the end, I'll tell you who I'm picking, but I'll also tell you how that bet could possibly go tits up because other fighters have advantages too. So, that haircut that Alan has always had has always been one of those, man, I don't know. We got Arnold Allen definitely on the spectrum in a good way, though. Love that guy. Yeah. I'm sure Dominic Cruz is autistic. Do you think so, man? I mean, he's a wild man too. He does things differently. Kadeem Mbaye in the room saying, "Oi, what's up, Uncle Weezy? Sleeper card this weekend. Let's get the tip. Let's go, man." Yeah, I think it's a great card. I think there's some high-level fights on the card. Mirov versus Kisra is a high-level fight. Dober versus Moicano is a high-level fight. The main event is a high-level fight. There's some fun ones on this card. So I'm really looking forward to it. And I've got a lot of action already, and I'm going to be adding more. So I'm looking forward to it. Arnold Allen got screwed in that last fight. Evloev was dead to rights before the ref saved him. Yeah, dude, I had a max bet, 5-unit bet on the Arnold Allen finish only prop. and those knees were legal, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, he got absolutely bailed out. That really hurt me. That would have been a big win for me. Over 4 units I would have won if Goddard's a horse shit ref. God, is that guy? I mean, that guy is so fucking full of himself. He loves himself more than anybody in the world loves him. He thinks his shit doesn't stink, and he will confidently fuck up. I mean, and just be like really confident about his fuck ups. And yeah, the rule is that you have to have weight on the hand. You can't just touch a finger down. And his hand really wasn't even down those times. He kept getting it lifted up. So yeah, rough one for me there, man. King Bicky's parlaying Pfeiffer, O'Malley, and Nickel. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, man. I mean, Pfeiffer's just been on fire lately. O'Malley, we'll see. I mean, like going 5 rounds with Marlon Vera, we're gonna find out what O'Malley's made of, man. You gotta want it. Going 5, that guy's not going anywhere. You're not knocking out Marlon Vera. So, and Marlon Vera is not gonna quit coming at you for 25 minutes, and he's gonna need the big cage, and he's gonna need to run a lot. But yeah, I don't love that. I don't love it just because I think Marlon's live. But you know, I mean, Bo Nickel. You know, we all know how good Bo Nickel is. I'm on the Patreon. All that stuff is good. Yeah, dude, I appreciate that, man. You know, that's what the great thing is. You get the matchups, you get the stats. You know, you can tail my picks. I mean, I'm gonna make good picks. I'm a long-term winner in the gambling world, but it's the information that you get on the Patreon that's really the most useful, and it's going to help make you a better long-term gambler that makes better decisions because you have access to more information than the average MMA gambler. That's what makes my Patreon such a great value. Those knees were 100% illegal or legal. Yeah, they were legal. Absolutely, they were. And I didn't even think they were to the head when I first saw them, but they were definitely to the head. But then I saw where the hand was. I'm like, dude, his hand wasn't even down. And even if it is, you have to be bearing weight on it. That's the rule. You can't just because they always tell you don't play that up and down game. Because if your fingers are on the mat and you're getting kneed in the face, I'm not going to stop the fight because you're playing with the rules there. You're really playing with your own safety. You're supposed to protect yourself at all times. Don't be like, oh, like my finger was down this much, so then that knee that guy just blasted me with in the face is now illegal when it would have been legal if the finger was up there this high. So that's why they changed that rule so that people couldn't make the referee get involved when they shouldn't be involved, you know, because that's a legal knee. I mean, the guy's not down. So, but yeah, it's Goddard's a bum. Yeah, and he's unapologetic because he thinks he's way better than he is. What's the point of parlaying Nickel? He's like minus 1,500. Yeah, he adds a little bit of value, you know, but it's the line on him is crazy. Got screwed on those knees from Allen, and same happened to my huge and confident Tim Elliott plus 550 versus Mokaev. Yeah, this is the game we play, man. I like Luke Boonme, Dan Ige, Daniel Marcos, and my boy Petrosian next week. Yeah, and I just got all those stats out to my Patreon members. So if you're on the Patreon, you're already checking out Tavares versus Rodriguez stats, Michael Johnson versus Darius Flowers stats, Robert Britchek versus Albert Duraev stats. So yeah, fun times, you guys. Always good value on the Patreon. Yeah, his hands weren't even on the mat. I know, man. But that's Mark Goddard. He's a dog shit ref. The worst is Joe Rogan saying the knees hitting him were making his hand go up. Like, dude, you don't know how replay. Where I know, dude. I know. It's like, dude. Yeah, it was just so bad. If you freeze frame, hands are off the ground on each and every knee. I know. And that's the game we played. And I've just realized, you know, it's just pointless to bitch about it because you just got to move on to the next week. When you bitch about things and talk about all the units that you should have been up, if the referees or judges weren't incompetent, you'll go to your grave early. So, yeah, Max Griffin at earlier lines. But thank you guys for hanging out with me on a Wednesday night. I appreciate all the questions. I hope I answered all your questions. Do me a favor, leave a thumbs up on your way out. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and please consider joining the Patreon. I work hard for you guys for free here every week on YouTube. So joining the Patreon is how you help support this work. Make sure I keep showing up here for free doing this work for you guys on Tuesday and Wednesday nights on this channel, doing Just the Tip with Uncle Weezy and Ask Weezy. Check back here on Friday. A little bit after the weigh-ins, I'll be giving you guys my greasy 4-leg parlay, and I'll be looking to demo a new product that is finished hopefully by the end of next week for you guys for prize picks and underdog plays, which we've already covered some of the analytics that will be going into those products, including your Uncle Weezy's tits metric. So thank you guys for hanging out on a Wednesday night. I will see you guys right back here on Friday for the greasy 4-leg parlay. Let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 85. God bless each and every one of you, and we will see you guys on Friday. Or wait a second, we got some questions here. I read an article that the rules for the grounded opponent were different because Canada's MMA rules are different. Pretty stupid that the rules aren't universal. Yeah, you still have to be down. Still have to have weight on the hand. It doesn't. So yeah, Goddard still sucks. Thanks, bro. Good show. Golden Octagon. I was about to listen to the DraftKings and Prize Picks stream on PSR, but I saw you were live, so I thought I'd stop by to say, oh, I appreciate you, man. Yeah, man. Good to have you hanging out here, dude. I'm just checking out now, but always good to have the Golden Octagon. What do you call it? Supporting us here on Uncle Weezy's channel. In terms of future parlays, I like Figgy against Garbrandt, the new heavyweight dude against Josh Parisian. Oh, yeah, that guy's going to knock him out in like 3 seconds. And Nakamura against the new Vera dude. Yeah, I think all those guys get the win. Yeah, I'm not a believer in Garbrandt at this point in his career. That French, I forget what his name is, against anybody against Parisian gets a win. And then Nakamura is a stud. Canada's still using rule set from 2003. Unbelievable. Yeah, I hope they get that figured out. God bless and good luck, Weezy in chat. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Victor. Thanks, Bob. You guys have a great night. We'll talk to you on Friday with the greasy 4-leg parlay. God bless.